right. Well, welcome everybody to the Microsoft Office 365 office hours, and cast of thousands that are here in this relaunch. But welcome everybody, and to the panel here to my left. I don't know how we're appearing on screen here, but joining me is Sean McDonough, Mike Nelson, Hal Hostetler, Eric Riz, all MVPs, and Neil Hodgkinson from Microsoft is also on the panel today. And I'm Christian Buckley, and great to be here. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Guten Tag.
Such a warm relaunch, welcome. Hello.
Excited to be here, Christian.
Hello,
Long time first time caller.
We're all nervous.
Happy to be here, but as usual, Teams is playing up for me right now. So
Yeah, well, we'll I think it'll be interesting to go through. We've got a structure for the way that we're going to run the office hours, a little bit different from what Dux was doing previously. We're going to go through, and we've got kind of segments for this morning. We're here, of course, live this morning. We're at 8 a.m. Pacific. We're also going to be back this evening for the Asia Pacific market at 5 p.m. Pacific. All the recordings, of course, will be out on LinkedIn, so you can go and find all of those recordings and watch on demand. But the structure of this morning, so we're after this intro period here, and feel free, the panel will jump in, interrupt at any time, as they are wont to do. It'll happen.
It's been known to happen.
Yeah, but we're going to go through
Just a few times.
Yeah. Mike is going to take the lead and walk through some of the Message Center updates, things that we need to know about and care about. We're then going to go in and talk about a topic which I think you'll find interesting for a few minutes. And then we're going to jump over and actually answer questions that are coming from the community. If you're watching, if you have questions and like us to tackle them live or in our next episode, you can comment there on LinkedIn. We'll be monitoring after the broadcast through other channels and answer either later this evening or next week. Any questions there, but if you would like us to try and tackle something right now, you can go and comment over on LinkedIn.
Yeah, if you want to see us squirm live.
That's right, which is sometimes fun. I will point out that we are answering these questions that we'll cover later, like live. We sometimes we do some prep work around them, but typically, no, we're looking at them, reading them through, and answering them in real time.
We're not the prepared sort.
No. That seems like a hassle. I don't think.
No canned answers.
Yeah. So it's much more entertaining to do it live. So
That it is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, why don't we jump over and let's go through and talk about a Message Center update. So, Mike, you want to?
Yeah, you bet. So for everyone viewing that doesn't know, we obviously get administrators of M365 can get updates about different features and things that are happening around the products in M365. The Message Center inside of the admin console is where you can find those. So every show, I'm going to kind of pick out a few of the tidbits that are relevant, I think, things that people will be interested in. If you're not interested in it, I'm sorry. Please send your suggestions. Be happy to accommodate.
Everyone's going to be interested, Mike. Yeah. Everyone. So.
Yeah, right. All right. To start out, hey, everybody wants that team membership expanded, right? So we've been talking about this for months, trying to get teams to go from the 10,000 member or person limit to 25,000. And that's been in the works for a long time. Well, guess what? They just pushed it again. To go to 25,000, it was pushed again from late January all the way to late February. And stay tuned. I have a feeling it'll be pushed one more time. Send the SharePoint pages to Yammer. That's another one that came out. We're adding the ability to share SharePoint pages to Yammer communities. Anybody still use Yammer? And I'm just kidding.
Yep.
What's Yammer?
Sorry about that. It just makes it easier to create posts, questions, polls, and praises directly from the SharePoint page. That has also been pushed it was supposed to be done late December, and now it's targeted for mid-March.
Well, it's underway. So I see it within my tenant now, and for those that aren't, I think this is a big deal just because we're seeing the that more and more integration across the primary workloads. You think about the way that we consume information in SharePoint and Teams and Yammer and Outlook. So to see that cross workload integration, it makes it easier to push content to where people are consuming the information. It's especially with any community where you're trying to center the gravity of discussion. Mm-hmm. And what will happen is suddenly a thread will start an email and be like, you can redirect that over, push that over to Teams. Right. In fact, I find myself, doing that frequently, is emailing, an email thread over into a team conversation. But now you have that ability with Yammer and SharePoint to move the content where it belongs. So,
yep.
The workload boundaries have gotten really blurry. Do you think at some point we're going to see just like convergence where there's no differentiation between services? That's just kind of a random question or thought I had.
So kind of like where you think I'm going to, as a child, I see the soda pop dispenser and I'm going to add every
the suicide. Yeah.
The suicide.
When is Microsoft 365 going to suicide?
That's right.
Maybe I should put it a different way.
Yeah, you put it.
Blend all colors and it comes out this just kind of bland gray, a mush, an oatmeal type substance. That's what you're looking for.
That's an improvement, I think.
No. All right, moving on. Again, in the SharePoint land, SharePoint Spaces is to be available by default in the new menu. Right, it allows for creation of the sharing of immersive or browser-based. This is directly from it. Browser-based mixed reality environments using things like 3D models, 360-degree images and videos, and 2D content. So if you haven't gone out and looked at some of the videos that people have created that have done this spaces with 360 images. In 3D models, it is fascinating. It really is. I mean, it really brings a new dynamic to being able to present content, I think.
Has anybody used it for that? Like done something? I
just tested with it. I mean, I just played around with it, but I, put a logo, or you can take an image and you can make it spin in 3D, or, on top of a podium or a table kind of a thing. But I haven't really utilized it for anything else.
I've tried to bring some Blender models in, real lightweight stuff, but I don't consider myself much of a 3D artist. I'm barely a 2D artist, and that's with crayon. So,
and Microsoft's pushing people to learn more about 3D because now that's a default app in Windows 10, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's, when they first demo it and you're walking through kind of that generic environment and, I can look in a holographic 3D realm, 2D presentations.
Yeah.
So I can have my virtual self standing in an empty room staring at a wall of a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, that's not really like the view of how it
showcasing the technology.
Right.
Yeah.
When you see somebody that has gone through, and again, what we need is technology to help speed up the building of those 3D models. But like an example that I saw of a class where they were looking at a 3D model of a beating heart and were walking around it on this pedestal and kind of break it out and look at it and looking at blood flow. Like that was incredible to see that.
They were showing that on a television show. I forgot, a medical one, one of the primetime series where they had a picture of the chest cavity, and the doctors were walking around it, and it was a 3D image of a patient that was on the operating table, and they could walk around it and they could look inside of it, and they could, it was pretty cool.
A couple of universities in this area have gotten medical equipment that utilizes AR, VR for things like learning autopsy skills and whatnot, because you can make all of that stuff almost close enough to photorealistic that it serves the purpose, and it works really well, and you don't have to go through cadavers quite so quickly.
Yep.
So just to wrap up a couple of items that I've got here, with large gallery view and together mode for web meetings is now available inside of Edge and Chrome browsers. And what I mean by that is you couldn't do that inside of a browser before. You can do it inside of the full FAT client, right? But that's going to be in Teams. It's coming late February for a full rollout. It allows you to change the together mode or large gallery during the meeting. That's actually the meeting was created in Azure Chrome. So that's a big improvement, I think, for folks that don't like to use the FAT client of Teams. Also, end of support, IE11. IE11 won't go away, right? It's
Put a bullet in it.
It's just that thing that it won't go away. And it has gone away for desktop apps, but M365 has kept it around. And their end of support now, they say, is going to be March 31st. But they will not specify, and I researched this quite a bit, they will not specify an actual end of life. So it is the last Internet Explorer browser to be made, but they will not say when it will die.
It's at the end of its life. I'll call it.
Yeah.
Like that.
What's the time?
That one itch. You just can't get rid of it.
No, it just made me think of I'm trying to remember when it was. It was last year. It was towards the beginning of the summer, and I was somewhere out in a more rural area, but there was a monitor or something that was electronic outside, and it was not running, and it was an Windows NT screen. So that's still out in the wild, like literally out there. I know. Yeah. And it wasn't working, Sean. So not surprisingly, it wasn't working, whatever it was.
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Well, hey,
surprised it's working at all.
I've got one more thing I'm going to end up here. Is I'm an Azure guy. I'm actually, I'm not one of the Office MVPs, but I know a lot about it. But I'm more on the Azure side, and this is really for folks that use M365 or Azure. You got to be careful about your SSL and TLS certificates. So from a security perspective, there are expirations coming up on intermediate certs. And if you're a non-security person and you manage an application or a website inside, or even an application that's running inside of M365 or Azure, you need to find out about this, because what will happen is once that intermediate certificate expires, your app, service, website, whatever, will not work anymore. So you need to investigate this. You need to take a look at it. It only has to do with DigiCert intermediate certificates right now, but DigiCert is probably the most widely used besides Komodo or VeriSign. So that's and that's about it for the updates.
Whitelist all those CSRs. Make sure they don't go to the junk mail bin.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this could turn out to be a bad thing. I mean, really bad. But DigiCert, I have DigiCert certificates, and I've been getting notifications like every other week about, hey, make sure you check this. Make sure you check this. This time is coming. So they're pretty proactive about it.
But there'll still be that 5% of admins who just miss the bus.
Yeah.
No matter what. Well, that's with server maintenance. It's like that. You can go in. You've got 1,000 servers. I remember having a discussion with a buddy of mine at Microsoft that owned a big part of MSN, and he's like going and reclaiming servers that they would go in and remove connectivity to the servers, and they'd get a few responses like, "Hey, what happened?" They'd turn them off, and they get a trickle in. Then they go and completely wipe them, and each time there's notification, and this is like 30 to 60 days happening in between phases. And still, after they would then wipe the servers and repurpose them, people are like, "Hey, what happened to my solutions?" Like, that was 6 months ago, 9 months ago. Where have you been?
Welcome back from the coma. Yeah.
Right. Well, hey, jumping in. So I wanted for the next 5 minutes to do a topic to discuss on the evolution of mobile and productivity. A few years back, all the discussion was around how everything is moving towards mobile solution, and the running joke, of course, coming from that ad campaign is there an app for that? That was that's permeated like my family. Like, something will happen, somebody makes a mess in the kitchen and says, "Oh, we need to clean that up." I'm like, "Isn't there an app for that?" That's like the running joke. But in the modern workplace, did mobile apps really take over as expected? in the
And
way
in
that
my
we thought about?
workplace, I think we got some advantages with some of them. I mean, I love to keep pointing out the Teams app as doing authentication and solving, that problem with multiple IDs and whatnot. They got that totally right. But in the other case of other things, I still can't edit a Word document on my little mobile screen. I can do it on a tablet, but I think form factor really factors into exactly what you can do and how effectively you can do it.
Yeah, I'd agree
And
with
that's
you,
not going
Sean.
to change.
Most of the things for me when it comes to mobile apps is about read experiences as opposed to true collaboration.
Staying on
Outlook,
top of things.
love the Outlook app, especially on the iOS. Teams app, yes, fabulous. I think it's a great evolution for a very modern mobile, even a small form factor app. But like you said, I struggle editing. I couldn't collaborate with somebody in a Word doc, even an Excel spreadsheet. It's just too clunky.
Yeah.
Unless you've got something.
That was the idea that somehow the mobility apps were going to completely. Oh, hey, there you go.
Is that a keyboard, Sean?
Keyboard.
That's a keyboard.
Wow.
You can Bluetooth it to phones and tablets and everything. I mean, but of course you're not going to be bringing these things.
There you go.
Yeah, that one out.
But that won't connect to my phone, Neil.
So I remember a few years
Not with
back.
these things, it won't.
I think it was back in, like 5-6 years ago. So fellow MVP Michael Knoll was traveling. I think we were in South Africa, and he showed up, and all he had was his phone. I don't remember the device. So he had a Bluetooth keyboard for it. But he had, he wasn't running technical demos on it. It was all slideware and connecting to the cloud. And so he did everything via his phone. And then talked about it, and I think it worked most of the time.
Scott Hanselman ran an entire Ignite session from his phone, from his Windows phone at the time. That was, I don't know how many years ago that was, but he ran the entire demo, everything from his Windows phone. And I just want to bring up one thing that I as part of the messages, which you just reminded me of, is that Microsoft is now actually going to allow for, like you said, using mobile applications, but to authenticate. I've always had a problem with authentication. It's always been, you're on your phone and you have to authenticate to multiple apps. It's kind of convoluted the way it works, because you can only see one screen at a time. You can only see one app at a time. It's not like a desktop where you can bring up 4 different apps and see everything that's going on. This one just kind of puts a screen in front of a screen in front of a screen. And when you're authenticating, that can get really confusing. So now what Microsoft is doing, which you're going to start rolling out in April, is the ability to use QR codes for authentication. So they're going to start with the Outlook web app and the Outlook mobile app to do authentication with QR codes.
I just saw some discussion online, I think in one of the Facebook communities around Microsoft 365, and somebody asked that inevitable question, like, is anybody using QR codes like all the time?
Yeah.
Yes.
I even have one up on the wall that actually is my Wi-Fi. So and it's in our kitchen. It's just tacked to our bulletin board, but people can just scan it and then they can connect to our Wi-Fi, our guest Wi-Fi.
So that's just a for the other panelists. If Mike ever does a scanning view of his office, snap a picture of that so we can push that out via social.
Yeah. As much as you can do with mobile, though, the experience, sadly, even though we've got broad coverage of good Wi-Fi and broadband across the U.S., I can tell you, like SP TechCon, when I was trying to do demos with the cloud and that connection went poof, I was dead in the water. Mobile devices at that point, sadly, are, large, over-glorified paperweights.
Well, there's something to be said, especially if you are presenting or at a customer location of, the good old days of carrying around that brick laptop that had the full, demo environment that had, VMware or Hyper-V running on it, and that you could run that. There's value in not rolling the dice with connectivity and all the other issues there. Well, listen, I know that's a longer topic, that we can expand on. I think that there is a great discussion around that topic of the future of mobility. Maybe we'll come back to that. But let's jump into questions now. And I know we've had quite a few coming through over on the LinkedIn feed as well. We'll try to get to some of those here, but for the next 40 minutes, we really want to go through some of these questions and queue up. And I know I need to read through. I don't know if any of you are following along with some of those questions, because we have a few folks. Jay, thank you so much for answering some of those over in that live feed. We are seeing them, but it's over on this monitor, not this monitor. So I see it scrolling over on the right side here. But let's jump in with the questions that we have, and we'll try to pepper in some of the other questions here. So let's start with question number one. Georgine asks, so I want to use an external webcam for Teams because my laptop's camera doesn't give a nice result. I can't choose the external webcam in Teams settings. I only see the name of my laptop's camera there. With Skype, it immediately grabs the external camera. With Zoom, I can also choose my external camera. What am I doing wrong with Teams?
You're not doing anything wrong. I've had the same problem. So
it's not you, it's them. Is that
yeah?
what
It's not you, it's them.
I mean,
Yeah.
one never knows. Is the machine turned on? Let's start from the beginning.
That's it. That's it, Eric. Dang. How much do I owe you? No. It really has to do with Teams. It's really something where they. This comes down to even an audio issue. They did something with Teams, and I pointed this out on an earlier episode, where they changed the coding around the audio and video. And they did that to refine the stream, to bring the stream levels down for all the participants. And what ended up happening is that there were some generic USB cameras and also built-in, I would say, less expensive cameras that were no longer recognized as cameras. So I know there's conversation out about it on tech community, but you're not the only one experiencing it. I don't have a fix either. I mean, I don't know if there's a fix. I've had people that just, would uninstall Teams and then completely reinstall Teams, and then the camera would show up. So.
Well, I know there's a device issue there. I had a conversation with a friend, a Microsoft person, who was wearing the beautiful Surface headphones, and then she relayed some of the issues that she had with them working with Teams. I don't know the latest on that. We're not going to go through and do device reviews here. But that is something that I know the list is finite of the officially supported Teams devices. And so that's just careful that if you're going to buy new gear and your primary communication collaboration platform is Teams, that you go and look at the feedback and do some digging to find out, just to make sure that what you really want to buy is going to be supported.
See, but that shouldn't be the way it is, because I mean, I can fire up Zoom and I can put in any kind of device I want on it, and it just works.
Yeah.
Hey, you said the Z word. That's $1 in the swear jar. Come on.
Remember, there's also a device certification program, right? So, like, for example, I'm going to name a manufacturer here, the Jabra series of headsets. They're all fully Teams certified. So that's one way to think about it as well. If you go for a more obscure name, as Sean mentioned, you're probably less likely to get a level of compatibility or support that you might need.
Yeah, that's all. I realize the reality versus the, why can't it be this way? There's the, Mike, but I don't know what the color of the clouds are in your world, but we should do the homework.
You know what this reminds me of, though? This reminds me of the old Windows versus Mac argument. Windows plug and pray, and a Mac, being able to you can plug anything into a Mac and a Mac would recognize it, but you would go like this when you plug something into a Windows box to see if it would actually recognize it. So just, kind of a comparison.
Do your homework. Yeah, do your research on that. But yeah. Well, let's jump to question number 2. So this is Christian C, as opposed to Christian B. It says, how can I see all the participants at an older meeting? In the Teams app, it shows me a number, but not the correct one. That's a different comment or question there. And some of the participants, but not all of them. And in reports, it shows me the correct number, but not the names. So is there a way to see all the participants in a Teams meeting?
I've never tried. Unless a meeting's actually active and then you can see, but if it's an older meeting, as he's asking.
Yeah, what do you mean by older meeting?
Geriatric support group?
As per usual, Mike, all we have is the question that's being asked. There is no background. The person is not live on the air. So we have to assume some things and think it through logically.
My assumption here is I was in a Teams meeting, say, yesterday. Several of my colleagues and maybe even guests joined. That meeting's now closed. I want to go back and review how many people who actually joined and how many.
Oh, okay. Didn't think of it that way.
If you look in the chat in a meeting, you'll get pop-ups saying that somebody joined the meeting, but that's kind of a clunky way to have to measure it.
Yeah, that's been a request for a while. And I know that initially the requests for, just like any other webinar software that's out there, all of those other platforms offer that post-meeting report. I've used for years Zoom for webinars. Teams is my meetings platform, but live meetings didn't have a lot of the reporting. Live meetings didn't have a lot of things that the other webinar platforms had. And I'll be honest, I've not revisited live events yet because of so many limitations and clunkiness of the UX. Meetings in Teams is very different. So I know that request for a post-meeting summary has moved from the live events over into team meetings. So I don't know the update there. And so I think that is one of the things that's discussion points that's happening is basically duplicating the capability of Teams meetings, making the live events work operate like functionality wise and the flexibility wise more like a Teams meeting. Again, that doesn't answer the question about the reporting aspect of that, but I know that's been a request out there for some time. All right. So we don't have any deeper thoughts around that then. All right. So let's, question number 3. This is more of an open one. Rupesh asks, what's the best tool for monitoring Office 365, including Microsoft Teams?
Define monitor.
I have a favorite.
Boom.
Should we mention particular brands and tooling?
We can do whatever we want, Neil, but yeah. I mean, I think that's part of it, and we can have a discussion. I think we also need to expand on what Sean just said.
Yeah. Well, my favorite tool was, everyone will remember Steve Peshka, right, back in the day from Microsoft, Grandpa, as we called him. When he left Microsoft, he was part of a founding group of a platform called Office365mon.com. And that then tool that got bought by Zscaler. They sold it to Zscaler eventually. That's still around, and I was part of the test team for it. Steve invited me to be part of the test team. I thought it was great. Back then, Teams didn't exist. They've since extended it with Teams, and I've not used it for a couple of years. I'm assuming it's still, if it's still as stable and as solid and as good as it was back then it's a great tool in my opinion. But I'm sure that there are plenty of other partners, vendors, ISVs that have similar capabilities. But that's the one I'm most familiar with.
I would make the comment that the integrations that they're, for anyone who works in Azure quite a bit, they've now integrated reporting for Teams into Azure Log Analytics. So you have the ability to bring all the raw data, most of the raw data from Teams into Log, what they call, it used to be OMS, which is now a Log Analytics workspace in Azure, and you can take that and you can use a query language and query that raw data, and then you can also, you can graph it, you can do all that kind of fun stuff. So and then you can bring it into Power BI and do whatever you want. But it's not something that's prepackaged. It's not something that's a SaaS service. It's something that you have to put some effort into.
Yeah, I know that there are a bunch of different tools and services that'll give you the raw numbers. Where it starts to get interesting is a number of vendors out there have taken it the next step. For instance, if you're trying to drive Teams adoption, they will monitor Exchange, they'll monitor Teams, and they'll show you, how much reduction in email you're getting along with the growth and use of Teams to help you kind of gauge any campaigns or how well it's being adopted by your organization. So a lot of those value adds tend to be with some of the products that are the next level up. And you get those from like IntLog, Cardiolog. You get that from the Office Expert folks, Tygraph.
Yep.
Tygraph.
Yeah, I think that's what
does a great job of that.
Yep, I think what you're talking about is it's like that. I always label it as kind of I was a fan of the phrase of decision management. The raw data is there in the platform. If you don't want to pay for a third-party solution, you've got access to all the logs. You can go in and write the scripts. You can pull the data, massage the data, integrate it with whatever else you want to look at, dump it into Power BI, build it out. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of specialty, and most organizations don't have the expertise around that. So, a lot of these third-party solutions, it depends on what you're trying to measure, to Sean's point, what you're trying to monitor and measure and then do with that data. I think based on that solution, and there are certainly there are solutions that are out there by verticals, by industry, that merge some of that. That's their special sauces. They'll merge it with other data. My daughter actually works for an analytics company that lives inside of Power BI and in the healthcare industry. And so that's their specialty, is providing data and analytics and tooling for healthcare companies and for hospitals. So you can find that depending on the vertical that you're in as well. So
yeah, and it's worth a look. It's
classic
almost
answer of it depends. I was going to say.
Yeah, it's seldom worth it to reinvent the wheel. It's going to take more time. Oftentimes, you're better off putting your money where your time would be, unless you've got a very specific need that you've got to slice and dice the metrics a certain way. Well, then you can extend it.
I am of the belief that a triangle makes a better wheel. So I'm going to go reinvent the wheel.
Oh man.
Angles. All right.
Let me just say quickly before we jump on to the next question that
Perfect from a square.
It's too easy to look for analytic solutions and get thrown into this monster as far as the information that's going to come back to you and reporting and such. Starting with looking for a specific answer, starting with a strategy that's going to get you a metric that's going to be meaningful, that's going to impact the way the organization is assessing and managing their change, their adoption, their whatever it is you're trying to do with the content is actually important to identify before you start looking for solutions, not after. Because once you get all that data, then you look at it and you say, oh wow, there's all these things that are going right, wrong, I have no idea. Start with some sort of strategy around the information you want to get and how it's going to impact your organization, then go out and get it and see how it's going to be meaningful to you. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck with all sorts of metrics that will just continue to grow and change without any rhyme or reason.
That look great in a PowerPoint.
Yep.
Can't see
Well,
the
to that point is also what Sean was saying is, are we talking about reporting or are we talking about monitoring? Because, I mean, they're really two different things when you think about it. And what exactly, I mean, again, we're making assumptions on the person who's asking the question. Like you said, Riz, what is the goal? What do you want to accomplish? And
I'd love to see some of these questions that are posted out to online communities. Like this one was pulled from Microsoft 365 Facebook community that is very active. I think there's 30, 40,000 members that are within that group in Facebook. But for Rupesh is to give us more of the scenario. So what I would do is I would go in there and say, here's my role. I own these workloads. Our team is trying to do this. Our focus is around adoption and engagement and understanding whether we're fully utilizing the licenses we have. Like that description is much different than monitoring of Office 365. Is it from the Azure standpoint? Am I thinking about, is it a hybrid environment? Do I have both on-prem and cloud assets? Do I have other workloads? That's the it depends answer.
That's why we need live call-in. We need people to,
Hi,
well,
Office 365 hours.
Yes.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. I have a question.
Yes.
I think we generally insult people too much for live call-in. I think our ratings would go way down.
I think we just
we have ratings?
I think that might work.
Each other. I don't think we insult others. We just insult each other. It's part of the.
Oh no, we're equal opportunity.
There you go.
So
we don't discriminate against. Yes.
So my mom is no longer with us. So we have at least 4 or 5 moms that are watching, I think. So that's half the audience right there. But all right, let's jump over to question number 4. Shinta asked a question. It's a great question. What's happening to Stream? Now meeting videos are stored in OneDrive and no Stream web storing. This person says incredibly bad change. How to deal with this? Anyone?
No. I don't want to touch it.
I struggle with this as well because we do a lot of recording of training videos and things, and then you've got to kind of republish them to share with people that didn't make it into the meeting.
Well,
we've just gone through experience.
Right.
There are many different use cases for Stream, though. I mean, that's a very isolated pocket case. Granted, it's a popular one, but Stream does a whole heck of a lot more than that.
Right. Stream is not just a storage location. So that part, because remember, didn't we start over in the SharePoint world with the recordings, and then it moved over into Stream, and now it's moving back across there? Mm-hmm. I mean, the benefit there is that with SharePoint as really being the the foundational, the pipes underneath the works, keeping everything running and being the one location to manage all of that content that's being created. Video content, why is that treated differently? Why is that in a different silo than the rest of our content? So to have that all in one place, that certainly makes sense longer term. I think that's a positive. But other impacts? No impacts, people. There you go.
No, I think there is. I think you're absolutely right with you. What is the specific? And Shinta does specifically say meeting videos, as opposed to, like you say, use cases for Stream. One of the classic ones we use it for training video channels, onboarding video channels. It's marketing. It's just so many use cases. That for meeting specifically, I mean, I would say for me it would make sense to store the video in the meeting, in the actual SharePoint, in the files location behind the meeting. Then to your point, Christian, it's in the SharePoint location at that point. But I don't know whether this is a temporary thing or I've not really looked into this scenario at all in terms of what specifically changed. I've not really had to.
Are you signing up for homework to go and choose that? Am I wrong?
Into it, Neil.
The first homework in the new world order.
Oh boy!
Didn't everyone else hear that he was volunteering to look into that? Because that's what I heard.
It was use of the word yet. I haven't looked into it yet.
Yes.
which was leading into I will be looking into it as soon as someone calls me on this. And here we are.
All right.
Neil,
I'll take it.
Report back. So for those that are watching for the first time too, we do that because there's sometimes in a question is asking about something that we just don't know, like it's brand new or what have you. And so we'll take a homework item. So we'll field that for next week's so for the morning call. Next time Neil joins us, we'll have that. All right. Everyone take note. Neil's homework.
Take note. Neil's last appearance.
Take note. Neil wrote his homework down.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, for some reason, Neil's just unavailable for the next few weeks.
Lots of meetings. Lots of busy work up there at Microsoft.
Christian, do we still have the email address, the group email address?
It is. So it's now, you'll post the questions out to the LinkedIn feed. So we're working on getting that other place for people to send questions, but it's primarily pushing people to ask their questions. If you're watching through some other channel, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, find your way over to LinkedIn on the AvePoint page, and you'll be able to find that. So.
No, I was purely asking for Neil so that if he wasn't able to attend, he'd be able to send to one email address and have all of his answers.
Yeah.
Well, I know we spoke about possibly attending every other week, Christian, right? That was our discussion.
Yeah.
So if I do my homework, I'll make sure one of you is able to present it.
Yeah, no worries. All right, let's jump to question number 5. Unless anything else on stream that anybody wants to say. Okay.
Don't cross them.
That's right. All right, question number 5. Dan asks, hi all, are other people having issues in Teams where they go to add a guest user and it says their email address is not found, then after many attempts, it suddenly appears?
Never got it to appear after many tries. Typically, that means you're just not a member of you're not a guest member of that tenant.
But specifically,
then it
like
appears.
lag and then shows up, I've not seen that specifically. But it's Teams, I believe it.
I mean, I guess if you think about
the thing of it is there are about 6 different switches you have to throw in Teams in order to get guest access working correctly. It's not just the one switch in the admin console. There's stuff that you've got to do with SharePoint and with Outlook and a bunch of other things in order to get guest access fully working. So, I mean, having one set up where it isn't and then it is, that's unusual. In my case, if it isn't, it isn't. So you go throw the correct switches.
Yeah, that is odd, and it might also depend in terms of the speed of resolution. If they're a tenant that perhaps have a B2B or B2C relationship at the Azure AD level, then it might resolve faster than someone that doesn't. So it could just be a timeout.
Cool.
You're muted.
It's one of those things that again, I think if we had the ability to ask a couple follow-up questions, might be able to dig in a little bit more. But yeah, it's the beauty of the platform, of this method of answering questions. We have no additional details.
Before you move on to the next one, Christian, is the next one about Teams as well?
No, it is not.
Awesome, because I just want to remind the audience that we're not just about Teams here, expand your world, Yeah, let's mix it up a little bit.
All right, let's do that. Question number 6, Prinka asks, hi all, is there any way I can map my SharePoint folder to a network drive in Windows?
Yes, but why would you do that? That's what Sync's for.
Yeah.
Have you seen? Let me see if I can find it.
If you've never seen an architectural rendering drawing of the WebDAV stack, go look at it. It's Byzantine. You don't want to do that. You can do it, but
it's scary.
It's not going to be particularly reliable, and the performance is going to suck because you've got to traverse so many different layers and translations.
It's
hideous.
I don't know if people can see the feed on the new platform, but I've just put a link in the chat window. It does tell you how to map a drive, but it distinctly states that the preferred recommendation is to use SharePoint Sync in order to bring files into Explorer onto folders.
That loud, angry-sounding typing from my mechanical keyboard, that was me typing that over. Sorry, I should have hit mute there, but I pasted that over into the LinkedIn feed.
Yeah,
that's the best guidance we got.
Right, and another thing you're going to lose is if metadata and field data is important at all in SharePoint, all of that gets stripped off when you're going through that mechanism. So if you're just using it for files, that's whatever. But if you want to keep metadata around, you're going to lose it if you go through WebDAV.
Yeah, and there's another clarification here as well. They don't refer to whether, I guess we're making an assumption it's SharePoint Online, not SharePoint On-Prem, because it's a very different scenario if that's the case.
Yep.
Especially if it's an older version and they're getting into Groove.exe again. Then
Yeah.
sorry for blaspheming on the call.
Ew.
Neil, bite
Ew.
your tongue. Wash your mouth out with Feld's now.
Yeah.
Do we just do a Groove reference there?
Yeah. A
Yes, we
groove.
did.
We did.
I have to say that that was all launched back while I was in business school, so late 90s, and that was fantastic. That replaced me using my little FTP server and sharing things out, and yeah, it's a great tool back then.
Good in the day.
Workspaces.
Yeah, that was
I'm going to step away from the camera for a second. I'll be right
pre
back.
SharePoint there, yeah.
Well, and
Right.
the thing about it is that word Groove from Microsoft won't go away because now what do they have? Groove Music, which is part of a default Windows 10 install. So Groove just will not go away.
Did Ray Ozzie even listen to music? I mean, come on.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
He had a Zune.
Did we?
That's right. And my Zune can literally hold hundreds of songs.
Hundreds.
At the same time?
All the kids
At the same
are
time, right?
these days.
But it still works, though.
I love every time with the Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I love that at the end there, the Zune reference. You know, I have on my Twitter profile, I have still on there my Zune hashtag, Zune fanboy. So,
Yep.
do you need me to?
Not again. Not again.
Here
Where
we
are they?
go.
Did I think I moved drawers here. There it is.
No, they're
That's my
deliberately
original one.
hiding it on you.
There we go. There's that one. I've got it's in this nice case. I've got the brown one, the original. There's a V1. So
Yeah,
the
Case is
original.
now worth more
Is
than
that when we were there $400, $500 a
Yeah.
pop?
Correct.
Expensive.
Yeah. I have let's see. I have 4 or 5 of them. One is not working. Yeah, I have multiples. And people ask, are you still using that? It's like when I was traveling, yes. But not so much when I'm not on the road. And people then ask, why are you using
Traveling, you speak up, Christian.
why don't you use your phone? As like, well, when you're traveling as much as I used to travel, and your phone power goes low, and that's recharging. And I'm finicky about music. I consume a lot of music, and so having an additional device. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I also have back from the going way back. I have songs that are on the Zune that were back from the old, what was that peer-to-peer technology?
Napster.
Napster. I have Napster music on there
Oh,
that
wow.
that isn't available anywhere else. That were original songs that were shared via Napster.
Yeah,
So,
LimeWire was the thing, man.
LimeWire.
there you
So FBI, if you're listening, this man just admitted, and if I go to court, I have to support.
There was
every
legal
Ukraine.
stuff on there.
yeah, this
Well,
was
raise your
legal
right
stuff,
hand.
community stuff. So
Left hand on the
yes, moving
I
along.
calmly swear.
All right,
Going to
question number
jail.
7. Question number
We're all
7.
married to each other now. I don't know.
Start a
what happened
GoFundMe. Start a GoFundMe for me.
So question 7, Andy asks, I have a gallery that has sort by columns and filter on number of items. If I point the data source to the SharePoint list, it all works. But if I point it to a local collection that has the same info as the SharePoint list, it shows no data. I can't see what I'm missing here. Any tips would be appreciated.
Gallery and what?
Gallery,
Sorry.
yeah.
I assume
Was
it's
that
Gallery
mentioned?
sorted by columns
I
with a
assume it's
filter on the
SharePoint.
number of items.
To the SharePoint
Hmm.
list.
What else would it be? I mean, it's got to be SharePoint.
I don't know, but I mean, I've been doing a lot of SharePoint, but I don't know what
Could be
somebody might
Stream.
be referring to as a gallery.
Doesn't Stream have galleries for videos?
I don't use Stream enough to know that.
I think you do.
Sounds like someone has to find out. No, you're not picking up on that. You're giving me homework, but not Sean.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm just wondering if there's enough meat in the question here
There's
to
not.
go and do. Yeah.
There really isn't.
And don't throw me under the bus, Neil, just because you're there.
Just good. Hey, I'll take you down with me. I'm wondering if it's I'm just doing a little bit of background research. I mean, there's the gallery web parts. There's, I don't know how old they are these days. I think there's some more information and definition. SharePoint Site Solutions Gallery.
I'll put in the note.
Wait, the Fab 40?
No.
Yeah. So I think, this one we'll punt on. I'll go back. I'll find the entry, see if I can get more information from Andy on the question, and maybe we can add it into the next call.
Yeah.
So I've got that in my notes. So I have homework to try and track this down, but I'll see if I'll add that back in. Why don't we jump to question number 8? Robin asks, I'm using Windows 10, Microsoft Office 2019, and a full Teams paid subscription. How do I get meetings created in Outlook 2019 to show in the Teams calendar? Any help gratefully received.
I'm going to let Hal answer this because we haven't heard from Hal the whole show. Take it away, Hal.
That's a homework item. There is a plugin that comes with it. You should already have it. There really shouldn't be anything for you to do, but if as much as you don't have it, I will have to find that out.
Are you signed into Teams with the same account you're signed into Outlook?
That was going to be my question, because this works by default. If I don't do anything special. If I create an Outlook meeting, it appears in my calendar in Teams straight away. Well, within seconds.
Yeah. Exactly. Did you have to, though? But to Hal's point, I mean, isn't there a plugin that you have to install for that for the 2019?
I don't think it's brokered locally. It just grabs it online. That's why the synchronization has to happen.
Yeah.
It's not something that you add to Outlook. It's something that just when you add install Teams, it's there.
Yeah. I mean, if Outlook should be, I'm assuming Outlook's connected to Exchange Online and not Exchange on premises. That would be a problem.
Yeah.
If it's Exchange on-prem, but I'm presuming Outlook, it's all in the cloud.
Yeah, they did just say Office 2019. They didn't say
so if
Office as supplied by Microsoft 365.
Yeah, that needs to be. They need to clarify that.
Yeah, that would be interesting if that was a 2019 MSI versus a click to run.
And if
they were doing 2019 MSI, that's another one.
And they do point out that they have a full paid Teams subscription. So,
right, versus the free, which is a difference because you've got the Exchange Online account.
Right. So, yeah, you got to have the same platform backing both technologies. And that would be the online.
Yeah, does it work the other way around? That would be another question. If they create a meeting in the Teams calendar, does it appear in Outlook? Does it feed one way but not the other? That would be really weird. But
Hal, are you taking that for homework?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You now have company under the bus, Neil.
Yay. We can listen to our Zunes together under the bus. Oh, and by the way, I got dinged for saying groove. Was it you, Sean, that said Fab 40? That's even worse. Come on.
That's just as bad, if not worse.
I heard LimeWire today for the first time in easily 10 years. So
yeah.
One of those
I was on a meeting last week where somebody was, I made another Gig Jam reference during a meeting pointing to, I know.
No.
And they looked at you crooked.
Yeah. No, but I think so I was just pointing out that some of the new capability, I said we're starting to see, for those that aren't familiar with it, a few years back, Julia White gave at the partner conference in a part of the keynote with Satya, gave a demo of a pure R&D project, and it's gone now. I still have the app on my phone.
The former Microsoft employee, Julia White?
Yes. Yeah. Now at SAP, for those that are keeping score. But she did this presentation of Gig Jam, and it was an interesting collaboration solution, and it was again pure R&D. But we're now seeing many aspects of what was demoed, 5-6 years ago in the product.
Yeah, they just integrated into other products. I mean,
right.
that died a quick death. And I mean, do you guys remember the Microsoft Garage?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of good project. Mouses Without Borders came out of that.
Yeah. Haven't heard from them in a long time though.
They're not around just doing things under the hood.
Yeah.
Well, let's. So we've got a few minutes left. Let's see if we can squeeze in one or two more questions. Carolyn, number 9, in Teams for SharePoint Online. Sorry, Mike, more Teams. A lot of questions about Teams. Apparently, all the kids are into Teams these days. I don't know. It's popular all of a sudden. So,
or they're forced into it.
Yeah.
Can you rephrase all these as Zoom questions, please?
In Teams for SharePoint Online, the default time zone is set for Pacific time. If you add a calendar app and have it connect to Outlook, if you're in a different time zone, the time in the Teams calendar channel, not main, will show Pacific time, not your time. Right. It also will affect the timestamp for uploaded files. How do you change this?
That used to be a web application setting in SharePoint. You could set the default time zone for site collections that are in a particular web application. Can you do that with Office 365 SharePoint Online? Neil, do you know?
I'm not sure, if I'm being honest.
Don't
go there.
You lay it out there, and it's just
Well, I mean, that's the simple answer is that it's the time zone is managed by the SharePoint. So whether
take that as a homework item to see if the equivalent mechanism exists in SharePoint Online, because it's obviously we can't configure a web app in a multi-tenant environment, but I know that many of those properties are exposed at the tenant level separately. And I'll see if that's exposed anywhere or is available in some form.
There's also a time zone master setting in the Office 365 user settings panel, whatever you want to call that.
And Hal, you've got, is that a link to this? We lost Hal.
Sorry. Yes.
Oh,
those are both links to that.
What is that link?
This is to the Outlook and Teams
this is the Outlook
calendar
and
sync.
Teams.
Oh, cool.
This is Outlook calendar syncing with Teams. And you got two of them.
Okay, I will share that over in the feed.
Check your My Account as well. Or you could also, the quick fix is just to move
hello.
the time zone.
We hear you, Hal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had to answer a phone a minute ago and forgot to turn my camera and stuff like that.
All right. We have like a minute left. So we're not going to get to question 10 here. That'll roll into the next one. But thank you, everyone, for participating in today's panel. And again, for those that are watching online through one of the streams, you can always find all of the recordings for these. This is a weekly show. We'll be back next week at the same time, 8 a.m. Pacific. We'll also, of course, be doing one this afternoon for Asia Pacific, happening at 5 p.m. Pacific, or wherever you are in the Pacific Rim if you're watching sometime in the morning in the future. So it's still Wednesday. Those people will dial in on Thursday, and they'll be giving us all of the information of what happened over the course of the day, so we can go like make stock buys, bet on sports, events, things like that. I got that right, Sean, correct?
I think that's how it worked in Paycheck with the curvature of the earth thing.
Yeah. What about the people that, as Christian says, dial in on Tuesday? Does anybody dial in anymore, Christian?
That's got a rotary phone somewhere.
Is there any more dialing?
Send that question to my AOL account, Neil. I will.
Or post to his MySpace area. Yeah.
No, my CompuServe account will just reject it. So.
Yep. And so for anybody that asks a question through one of the channels over on LinkedIn, we'll go through and we'll collect those, and we'll either answer them directly online. We're still figuring out the flow and answering some of the live questions, but we'll respond back to any questions that were asked within the LinkedIn page. And as we find other questions, if it's something that's bigger and needs the panel to respond to it, then we'll add it into the next panel discussion. So thanks everybody for participating. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back this evening for the APAC recording. Otherwise, we'll be back next week for another Office 365 hours.
You've all been warned.
Oh, cool. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Have a great week.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Yay.
Excellent. Yeah, so I see that so Jose asked the question, are you guys going to answer any of my questions? And yeah, I'll need to go back through and identify any questions that we can answer right there on the spot or fold into the